The cinematic industry has been a giant entertainment provider for audiences around the globe. The recent advancements have taken these developments to great heights, which earlier was thought to be impossible. Netflix, Amazon Prime, and many other streaming channels have revolutionized the way we view and perceive content. Thanks to COVID, web series and other OTT platforms have been on a high rise ever since. However, in the midst of this, one must never forget where it all started. The big screen is still the king of the game. To book your ticket for your favorite movie and go to the theater on a Sunday to watch it on the big screen is an experience that cannot be replicated. But as vibrant and giving as it is, one cannot ignore but focus on the fact of what goes on within these industries. Recent experiences have taught the world that everything is practically a business. Sadly, this industry is no exception to the phrase. Some people have built a base and name for themselves working relentlessly through the years, and those who act as an inspiration for newcomers. Parisian cinematic industry was no different in the 1970s. It faced an immense revolution when directors began experimenting with genres never worked on before. It was to involve politics and erotica, and add a more personal touch to movies, more than ever. The industry also acts as a hope for people who are willing to establish a hallmark for themselves. To get work from directors and to be accepted by millions, the industry is as cutthroat as it gets. Anyone can be replaced by a talent superior to yours. Controversy, debate, and constant opinions from the public surround the industry. While good work from good people is appreciated, the public takes no time to showcase a backlash for something reckless and obscene. Similar was the case with Maria Schneider-Neuter, who suffered a horrible fate in one of the most debatable movies, The Last Tango in Paris. Stick along to the end of this video as we unfold the diary of a French actress who was arped in a film and everything was filmed. 1. The Last Tango in Paris. The 1972 French erotica, directed by Bernardo Bertolucci, focused on themes of grief, passion, intensity, and human connection. The movie was supposed to be a masterclass within itself at the time, thanks to the theme it revolved around and the film's star cast. The star cast included famous personalities such as Marlon Brando and Maria Schneider-Neuter. Despite being made in the 90s, the movie received massive amounts of affiliation from the French audience and lovers of erotica worldwide. The success could be attributed to a particularly nasty scene that involves sexual intercourse between the main characters. Another success factor for the movie was Marlon Brando, as just before this he had completed The Godfather, which was a global hit and is appreciated to this day. The Last Tango in Paris depicts Marlon as an American who is living in Paris while mourning the tragic loss of her wife. The female lead, Maria Schneider-Neuter, is depicted to be a French girl who meets Marlo in the movie by chance. It was later that they decided to engage in sexual behavior in an empty apartment without revealing their names or history. The film received several awards which reinforced the directors and actors of the terrific job they had done. The film was nominated for 10 awards in total and managed to score 7 out of the lot. This included the Academy Awards USA, being awarded to Marlon Brando and Bernardo Bertolucci for the Best Actor in Leading Role and the Best Director respectively. Maria, on the other hand, received the David Di Donatello Award for Best Actor in 1973. Despite an astounding collection of $96 million at the box office, the movie could not hide or avoid the public backlash it faced. But what was all this about? Why did an erotica like this come to the point of being banned in several countries like Chile, even its home country Italy in 1987? Any present controversy and public outrage surrounding the movie circles back to the supposed scene in the film, which was showcased in great detail at the time on the big screen. Maria Schneider-Neuter and Marlon Brando became the epicenter of this controversy. In a nightmarish scene, Paul Marlon is shown forcing Jean Maria onto the ground with her hands being held against her will behind her back. Paul then goes on to relieve his sexual tension by raping Jean in the scene. They did it near a breakfast table where a French baguette and butter were kept. Paul used the butter as a lubricant and applied it on Jean's ass. He then goes on to pound her while Jean is depicted crying and helpless in the scene with tears of anguish and tragedy rolling down her cheeks. At the time when it was screened in cinemas, it received a mixed opinion for the level of erotica showcased in the movie, and it was mostly because of this scene. While the scene grew famous amongst men, no one knew that it was done against Maria's will. At the time, it was also appreciated for its raw nature and the emotion that the scene managed to capture. However, it was later that light was thrown on the fact that Maria had no prior knowledge of the scene, and it was told to her moments before it was shot. This led to a deep impact and an emotional and psychological scar on Maria as a person and actor. This went on to form an image of her being called only for sexual and intimate roles from then on. What was supposed to be a big break for the young aspirant turned out to completely ruin her life. Following this, several accusations were put on the director and the male lead of the film by an outrageous public. 2. Creativity or harassment. Directors are often regarded and respected within the entertainment industry for their way of storytelling. It is their direction and portrayal of the story that makes an impact on the viewers. To come up with creative aspects of depicting a scene in front of the audience to capture its essence at its best is something directors are known for. But does this need to come at the cost of someone's emotional peace and psychological distress? Is a very serious and frowned upon matter as it is. Any depiction of the horrendous acts shown in the movie is done to spread awareness amongst the general public. This is often reinforced by the fact of a serious punishment carried out by the offender and the trauma one goes through who was on the receiving end of the violation. Mr. Bernardo Bertolucci most probably did not think about these things while casting a rape scene, and that too without Maria's consent. The director's intention through the scene was to capture the raw essence of a helpless girl who had no route of escape from the humiliation that followed. The scene was often discussed with Marlon Brandon as well, who was in his 40s at the time. While the discussion between these two famous personalities went on for a while, butter seemed to be the final icing on the cake for this scene. This is what the director of the movie said in an interview we were having with Marlon, breakfast on the floor of the flat where I was shooting. There was a baguette, there was butter, and we looked at each other, and, without saying anything, we knew what we wanted. That stick of butter was the element in particular that Maria had no clue about. The 19-year-old was not aware of what she was in for. As the scene commenced, Maria's fear came to pass. It was just moments before the scene that she was informed of the way it was supposed to be shot. While the two men tried to convince her and explain how it was important for the movie, she had no other choice but to accept it. While butter was applied on her butthole, and it was penetrated by Marlon Brandon while hitting her, what she went through was as real as it gets. Her tears, shocked state of mind, and physical struggle to get herself out of the situation were something that would stick with her for the rest of her life. The only thought of comfort for Maria was that the scene was over in one take and did not have to be repeated. She went on public record and claimed that she felt betrayed by the actor and director for keeping her in the shadows. If that wasn't enough, the public outrage and industrial opinions on the scene went on to aggravate Maria's stress further. The public questioned the banner of creativity being left in the hands of male figures within the entertainment industry. Many believe that the boundary needs to be drawn somewhere when it comes to showcasing erotica on the big screen. Adding on to that, Schneider did not receive any sort of consolation for the scene from Marlon or the director. Everyone present at the time of the shoot just shot the scene and went on their way. This went on to show how little was thought of the issue at hand and how heinous acts were committed in the name of creativity. 3. Maria's life after movie. While the world applauded and was eager to see more erotica from Maria Schneider, her story is completely different. This is what Maria has to say about Bertolucci and Brandon as director and actor respectively. He's a great director, but ... well, I was 20 when I did Tango. Bertolucci made me wear very heavy black makeup under my eyes. Makeup on a girl who's too young gives her the wrong character, gives her a funny look. I argued with him, but with no luck. I don't know who he thought I was supposed to be. Marlon was such a good force on the picture. We were working like dogs with an Italian crew, filming in Paris, overtime and all that. And 2 crew members came down with stomach ulcers. And Marlon was the one, not Bertolucci, who goes on about being a member of the Italian Communist Party, but Marlon was the one who brought sandwiches and wine for the crew and worried about them. While she was being candid in front of the media, the scene and the way she was depicted in the film left an ever deeper wound than she could imagine. The emotional and psychological trauma that came with it just added to the misery of feeling helpless and violated by the people she trusted. Post The Last Tango of Paris, she received multiple calls from directors who wanted to star her as the lead in several erotica. She became the main attraction for this due to the bold scene where she was raped. While she tried to avoid the people from the industry, the general public was not ready to settle anytime soon. Several media houses were after her to get an interview and ask questions about what she went through. While she did her best to cope with the traumatic incident, the premiere of the movie and her memories from the humiliation she suffered kept her from leaving the dark place in her mind. When normal methods did not seem to do the trick, she switched to drugs for comfort and escape. Regular consumption of drugs such as cocaine and heroin affected her professional and personal life alike. She had difficulty maintaining her industrial and personal relationships. This also affected her performance in the upcoming movies, and she struggled to bring her career back on track. A few people that she sought comfort with were her cousin Vanessa Schneider-Nieder and her supposed lover, who was a photographer named Maria Pia Almadio. Her lover turned out to be a female, and not by surprise. Her recent encounters with men in the industry and incidents from her childhood led her to this choice. While she saw support in Pia Almadio, she was sent away to a mental asylum for being schizophrenic. Maria went above and beyond when she submitted herself willingly to the mental asylum, just to spend more time with her lover. Apart from that, there was only Vanessa Schneider-Nieder, her cousin, who provided her some sort of comfort in this time of need. While Vanessa was convinced her bring her story out to the public, Maria did not agree to it and was scared to pull off such a stunt. However, she went on interviews to speak clearly and concisely about the matter, all in the hopes that no other actress like her has to go through what she went through, just to make a name for themselves in the industry. In an interview with the Daily Mail in 2007, Maria said, "I should have called my agent or had my lawyer come to the set, because you can't force someone to do something that isn't in the script." It paints an image of how dark things can turn in the entertainment industry for a young aspiring actor at the time, who was just willing to climb the ladder of success through her hard work. 4. Public opinion and controversy. Following the filming of The Last Tango in Paris in 1972, it received widespread opinions from the public. While most of it was solely because of the erotic scene that was shot completely nude, Maria's claims and what she said in interviews that followed sparked an outrageous debate, and the public was fumed about the same. Female actors' security and their rights were even brought into consideration with context to the entertainment industry. In a recent interview in 2013, the director of the film, Bertolucci, went on to say it was in the script that he had to rape her in a way. But the idea to use butter came up while Brando and Bertolucci were eating breakfast. "I've been, in a way, horrible to Maria because I didn't tell her what was going on. Because I wanted her reaction as a girl, not as an actress. I wanted her to react humiliated." He also claims the public outrage to be a ridiculous misunderstanding. Schneider-Nieder confirms this in an interview in 2007, where she said during the scene, "Even though what Marlon was doing wasn't real, I was crying real tears. I felt humiliated and, to be honest, I felt a little raped, both by Marlon and by Bertolucci." One of the critics has pointed out that Schneider-Nieder was never actually raped in the scene. The critic has also mentioned that some of the voices made during the impression were just done to make it sound more real. But actually, no rape happened during the scene. However, this does not discard the fact of stripping Schneider-Nieder of her clothes aggressively, restraining her, and applying butter on her backside without her consent. This amounts to sexual assault under multiple jurisdictions. Additionally, it doesn't look like some major action would be taken against the director and actor who committed an offense decades ago. Not only the general public, but many famous personalities from the entertainment industry were alarmed once the incident came out in public. Interstellar actress Jessica Chastain took it to her social media, showcasing condemnation for the scene and the obscene demeanor of the director and actor, where she said, "To all the people that love this film, you're watching a 19-year-old get raped by a 48-year-old man. The director planned her attack. I feel sick." Evan Rachel Wood, another prominent figure in the industry, also expressed her rage for this act and showcased empathy towards Maria, as she also had an account of sexual abuse. She said, "This is heartbreaking and outrageous. The fact that Schneider-Nieder wasn't aware of being violated on camera for a movie is absolutely horrifying. That scene was not acting, it was real, and it's disgusting that she was put through that." While many still argue that the scene was nothing more than an intense picture of trying to put a message across that revolved around the story of the film, many believe against it. Even Anna Kendrick went on record to say, "I had heard this, but hearing it again makes me rage. And to all the people who thought this was a great film, I'm sorry, but you're watching someone who wasn't given the dignity of being treated as a human being." All these opinions and arguments underscore the seriousness of the situation. Guess. This is what happens when the directors try to be too creative and throw boundaries out the window. 5. The involvement of law enforcers. When the public and the other actors burst with rage over the obscene view of the butter scene, law enforcement had to be involved in the controversy surrounding Last Tango in Paris. It primarily revolved around the film's explicit content, rather than the specific incident involving Maria Schneider-Nieder. Upon its release in 1972, the film faced numerous legal challenges and censorship issues worldwide. In Italy, the film was banned, and Bertolucci was charged with obscenity, which resulted in a suspended jail sentence and the revocation of his civil rights for 5 years. The Italian Supreme Court ordered all copies of the film to be confiscated, and it remained banned in the country for many years. Similar censorship actions were taken in other countries, which included Portugal and South Korea, where the film was also banned due to its explicit sexual content. In the United States and other countries, the film faced significant edits to remove some of the more graphic scenes to meet censorship requirements. Despite these legal actions against the film's content, law enforcement did not directly address the ethical violations concerning Schneider's consent during the filming of the butter scene. The lack of legal intervention in this specific aspect serves as a reminder of the historical gaps in addressing issues of consent and abuse of power in the film industry. The broader public and industry outrage that followed Bertolucci's 2013 admission highlighted the need for more stringent protections and legal frameworks to safeguard actors' rights and well-being on set. Bertolucci's film was never legally classified as obscene, since the definition requires that the work have no artistic merit. A case against Last Tango in Paris could have a slightly stronger chance if it could show that the film itself was intricate from criminal conduct. In New York v. Ferber, the Supreme Court decided that it was legal to criminalize the sale of child pornography. Among the justifications it identified, the court argued that the distribution of visual depictions of children engaged in sexual activity is fundamentally related to the sexual abuse of children. In other words, the depiction of sexual activity was not incidental to the crime, it was the reason for the crime. The same principle may apply to Last Tango in Paris, in the sense that, if a sexual assault occurred in the butter scene, that assault was carried out in service to the film. Bertolucci and Brando thought the sexual assault would make good art, but the elaborate production of a feature film can hardly be credibly seen as nothing more than the culmination of a criminal conspiracy on its director's part. Particularly from the perspective of the studio, which makes an outright ban on distribution unlikely. The other Supreme Court case that could be relevant to the possible fate of Last Tango in Paris is the bizarre U.S. v. Stevens. This case ruled that Congress overstepped its bounds when it outlawed crush videos, which depict the torture and killing of animals, typically by women, for the pleasure of people with this sexual fetish. The court took issue with criminalizing the creation, sale, and possession of portrayals of animal cruelty rather than the cruelty itself, which was already illegal. It found that the law banning crush videos was substantially overbroad. It would prove too restrictive to many legitimate forms of expression, which is likely why so many reputable parties, including the New York Times, National Public Radio, and PETA's YouTube channel, signed a brief supporting Stevens. After the Supreme Court rendered its decision, the law forbidding crush videos was amended to target only speech that fit the constitutional definition of obscenity. 6. The truth. Meh. When everyone closes their doors for you, you rush to your loved ones and near ones for support. This mostly includes family and friends. While her lover was seeking solace in a mental asylum, Maria's condition did not get better anytime soon. But in the midst of all this, there was someone who looked up to her. Someone who actually gave a damn about her, to say the least. She was the only one who was interested in Maria's side of the incident she went through. She witnessed for herself the amount of trauma that Maria went through and how it changed her. Vanessa is a French journalist and novelist, but along with that, she is the cousin of Maria Schneider. Since the incident of the Last Tango in Paris, Vanessa has been verbal with the press and prominent figures within media houses, acting as an advocate for her sister. She has mentioned on several occasions the impact that the butter scene had on her sister. Additionally, she has implied aggression towards the people in the entertainment industry who exercise and misuse their power. Vanessa has made this fact evident through several interviews she gave where she made attempts to defend Maria. To understand this, look at the impact that the scene and the overall film had on Maria. Since that scene, Maria was looked at in a way that she could only do erotic and pleasure-oriented scenes. Multiple directors and young aspirants in the film industry approached her for the same, which added to the current misery she was going through. It formed an image of Maria and painted her in the wrong light. She wanted to be recognized for her intellect and skills as an actor, and not just for her body. In her book as well, Vanessa mentioned several details from their childhood and how she collected everything her sister did since childhood. In 2018, Vanessa published a memoir which was in the French magazine Elle. She goes on to describe aspects of Maria's life and the events that led up to the movie, concluding with her ultimate demise in February 2011 due to cancer. Vanessa also wrote a book which goes by the name My Cousin Maria Schneider. She wanted to publish it sooner, but Maria insisted she not, and she agreed. But after Maria went away, she did publish the book and received positive feedback, along with more and more coming to terms with the fact that what happened with Maria was indeed wrong. 7. Maria's childhood. Let us turn back the clock a bit and have a look at the events before the last tango in Paris. Having a look at childhood is equally important as exploring multiple aspects of the movie and why Maria went through what she did. Was it just the movie that caused such a deep impact on her? Or was it the inner child wounds that did not get enough time to heal? Maria was born on 27 March 1952 in Paris to the French actor Daniel Guérin and Romanian-born Marie-Christine Schneider. Despite Daniel's fame and reputation in the French industry, he was pretty much absent from Maria's life for the most part. It is safe to say that she was brought up under tough circumstances that shaped her character in a certain way. Also, she lacked any prominent father or male figure in her life, which did not expose her to the right influences and positive effects a father can have on a child's life. Instead, she was neglected by her father, who considered her to be a mistake and she should have never been there in the first place. What support she had from her mother was also stripped away when she was sent to boarding school, further distancing her from her parents. This instilled a sense of isolation and independence in her right from a young age. Her time in boarding school was tough as she suffered from feelings of abandonment and isolation. After this, Maria went on to live with her foster family, where she continued to face difficulties with the context of being in a stable family or being looked after and taken care of. It was during this time that she met Vanessa, who was her cousin. Vanessa has been the biggest fan of Maria since she was a child and Maria was merely 15. Before the last tango in Paris, Maria had little experience in working with big film projects. She initially started working in the 1970s in French TV serials and small film roles, where she gained significant experience but did not get her big break from there. The film's director, Bernardo Bertolucci, was drawn to Schneider for her fresh presence, which he felt would be perfect for the role of Gian, a young woman who becomes involved in a passionate and unconventional relationship with a middle-aged American, played by Marlon Brando. Bertolucci and Brando envisioned a raw, emotionally intense portrayal, and Schneider was cast in the leading role in 1971. The film was set to explore themes of sexual freedom and existential turmoil, which reflected the cultural upheavals of the time. The preparation for the film involved a degree of secrecy, particularly regarding the nature of some of the scenes. Bertolucci and Brando, aiming for authenticity and spontaneity, decided to keep key details of the film's more controversial scenes from Schneider until the last moment. This decision culminated in the infamous butter scene, where Schneider was subjected to a situation she was not fully informed about in advance, leading to significant controversy and distress. As the production began, Schneider was thrust into a high-pressure environment with complex emotional and physical demands. The secrecy surrounding the preparation for certain scenes, particularly the butter scene, was intended to elicit a raw and genuine reaction from her, but it resulted in a severe breach of trust and ethical boundaries. The film's production, driven by a desire to push the limits of cinematic expression, ultimately overshadowed Schneider's early career and left a lasting impact on her personal and professional life. There is another aspect to the story told through Miko Brando. Miko Brando, the son of Marlon Brando, has publicly defended his father and provided additional context about the controversial butter scene in Last Tango in Paris. In the wake of renewed public outrage and criticism following comments made by Bernardo Bertolucci in a 2013 interview, Miko addressed the incident to clarify his father's intentions. Miko stated that Marlon Brando was a professional actor committed to his craft and the artistic vision of the films he worked on. According to Miko, Brando did not intend to harm or exploit Maria Schneider during the filming of the infamous scene. Miko emphasized that the scene was not an actual assault, and that both Brando and Bertolucci believed it was an essential part of the film's narrative, meant to convey the raw, unfiltered emotions of the characters. In his defense, Miko acknowledged that Maria Schneider was deeply affected by the experience, expressing regret that she felt traumatized. However, he maintained that his father and Bertolucci did not foresee the emotional and psychological impact the scene would have on Schneider. Miko highlighted that the film industry at the time often operated with different standards regarding actors' consent and involvement in sensitive scenes. Miko's statements were part of a broader effort to protect his father's legacy while addressing the serious concerns raised by Schneider and the public. He underscored the importance of understanding the context of the filmmaking process in the early 1970s, a period marked by experimental and boundary-pushing cinema. Despite Miko's defense, the controversy surrounding the scene and its impact on Schneider has continued to provoke strong reactions. Many critics and actors have condemned the lack of consent and the ethical implications of the filmmaker's decisions, calling for greater respect and protection for actors in the industry. All factors considered, should such behavior have any place in the entertainment industry anywhere in the world? Do you think that entertainment should come at the cost of someone else's peace and morality? Where respect and dignity are not an appreciated trait, how can that industry develop and grow? When such practices take place in a reputed industry like this, how does new talent plan to try it out? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Do not forget to like, share, and subscribe for more fascinating content. Thanks for watching.